Before I let you go, Burnsy, aside from that Rogers exclusive, there's a couple of questions or comments rather we've had in on Aberdeen. As you were out, obviously, Aberdeen's 1-1 draw with Motherwell yesterday. I thought you were the best man to get your take on it. Thomas is written in saying, why do we have good players at Aberdeen but a rotten team? It's a disgrace. We sell out for games like yesterday but can't expect to beat Motherwell at home. And Ryan says, we can argue all we like about Thelin, but 11 points from 12 games, given the money spent this summer, and considering the squad, is absolutely atrocious. I mean, firstly, Burnsy, how were they yesterday, and can you argue with anything the guys are saying?
First half yesterday, it was, from an Aberdeen point of view, as a spectacle, it was really poor. Motherwell went up there and just basically did a typical 45-minute Motherwell performance where they just dominated the ball, passed it for fun, moved it about, but without any cutting edge at the top end, but they just kept the ball for fun. Aberdeen couldn't get near them. And a lot of people criticised Aberdeen. Basically Aberdeen sat off and let Motherwell play. And that is probably the best way to play against Motherwell, because if you go toe-to-toe with them, as Derek McInnes found out, they'll just pop it around you and make full use of the holes round the back when they went 3-0 up at Tynecastle. So, in fairness to Jimmy Thelin, that's probably the best way to approach this Motherwell game, because they still went in at half-time, 0-0, and then Motherwell, as usual, they ran out of steam, they never got the goal, and then Aberdeen came into the game in the second half. So, it wasn't a great spectacle to watch from Aberdeen point of view, but I thought the game plan was okay. Then they went ahead. The criminal thing for Aberdeen was that the goal they conceded from the corner. I don't know if you've seen it, but at the short corner, where the players have weren't even watching, and Elijah Just has knocked in a corner from Callum Slattery. That's like schoolboy stuff. That shouldn't be happening at this level. But I mean, the point is, Aberdeen were 1-0 up. They then draw one each. It's probably, if you look at it, Aberdeen don't have a great record against Motherwell at Tawdry, but the Aberdeen fans still expect them to beat teams like Motherwell at Tawdry. But the way Motherwell play, Motherwell are streets ahead of them. Aberdeen are maybe well set up. They're picking up a few results now since he's gone to 3 at the back, but as a result, they're maybe harder to beat at times. Okay, Athens was the exception, but they're harder to beat at times. But at the other end, they're losing like the sort of that's something in the final third with a lack of numbers, and that's a balance that he's got to try and address if this Aberdeen team really wants to kick on. But I mean, they had a really dismal start to the season. I mean, there was questions asked whether the manager could turn it around or not. He's got a few results, but they're still miles off where they should be. I mean, Dave Cormack, the Aberdeen chairman, it's been completely behind the manager, but he'll be hurting as much as anyone when he's seen that Premiership table just now, and he sees Hearts at the top of the league, where Rangers and Celtic both struggling. You know what I mean? Aberdeen would have seen this as an opportunity, but instead it's Hearts who are sitting up there making the most of it, and that I think that'll hurt, and that will sting a lot of Aberdeen fans as well.
I think the thing is as well, Sonny, when you can see the league table there, down in 8th, obviously Aberdeen, which is, as Burnsy says, I mean, look, that just seems mad to me for a team. Whenever I see it in paper, you know, I don't watch Aberdeen as much as Burnsy does, but when I see it in paper, it's a really good team with really good players, and I kind of think, fancy them today with that team, and they always kind of flatter to deceive. I mean, I don't know. How do you see it?
I feel like it's the oldest cliche in the book. Well, it's not that old. It's really since the formation of the new set of leagues have come in. But the teams that qualify into the European group stages struggle. It happens every single year. They find it difficult to cope with Thursday to Sunday. They struggle with it. And it happens all the time. And you're bringing in signings. You're trying to beef a squad up. Know what's the quality you're bringing in. You're trying to knit it together. You're having to swap and change and try. It's difficult. But it takes. I often find it takes clubs maybe need to do this 2 or 3 seasons to get into the swing of doing it. But they get one season in it. They're so bad in the league they don't qualify the next year. Look at Hearts. They're so bad at it. They're getting beat by Petro Cub. They get bombed out. They're so bad in the league. At this time last year, they're joint bottom with Hibs. And then they end up, they have a rebuild. They don't have Europe to worry about this season, and they're flying. Now, that's an easy excuse for Aberdeen, right? I'm making an easy excuse for them. 1 home win in 6 games in the league isn't good enough. And Jimmy Tillin's record this year in the calendar year has been atrocious in the league. No one can get away from that. So It does sound like I'm making a bit of excuses for them because, let's be honest, they weren't playing European football in the second half of last season, were they? But in terms of the league position, it doesn't surprise me because I see that's happening all the time with the club. Just, you know, in the recent terms, anybody has had to go in, even in the qualifiers. When Kilmarnock played in them last year, they'd like qualifiers, 6 ties. They ended up at the bottom, near the bottom of the league, and ended up spending the next 4 months there, scrapping, trying to play catch up. So you would hope Aberdeen will start to clear their feet a wee bit because they are going to go out. They're not going to go through in the European competition, and then they'll get a better run at it. But the ship may have sailed by then for Jimmy Thelin and for the league position. So it's not been good enough. It's not been good enough. And Burnsy sees him a lot more than I do, but you don't have to be. You don't have to be sitting in the seat of Pittodrie every week to know it's not been good enough.
I take your point, Sonny, about obviously the concern of playing the European football and the domestic stuff, but Aberdeen never picked up a point before they kicked a European ball. They never went in early. I mean, their domestic form before they even went into Europe was abysmal. Yeah. It was like rock bottom stuff.
Yeah.
But
did you find last year, when they didn't have Europe, when he had a chance to build up through the Premier Sports Cup and he got some partnerships and he got a team knitted together and went into the season flying? Thought that helped as well. Playing in Europe's taking that away from them too. I'm not trying to make excuses for them.
As you say, it's exactly the same as Hearts this season. You know what I mean? They don't have any distractions. They can they've got a big squad. They can just get on with it and just concentrate in the league sort of thing. So sometimes it's not a bad thing, but the holy grail for these teams is getting into these European group stages, and 9 times out of 10 when they get there, it comes at a cost, as Barry Robson and Aberdeen saw a couple of seasons ago.
I think the dream scenario is, Scott, I think what everyone's trying to do is to get into it 1 year, get the finances from it, but then consolidate and get back the next year. Yeah. Remember Robbie Nielsen spoke about that at Hearts. He said a one-off year isn't really, that's what you need to do is do it once, get the then consolidate and do it again, and then you can start to really build and kick on. But all that seems to be happening is it's just a rebound effect, and the team that does it just gets slapped right back down at the bottom of the league.
You never know. Hearts might get the Champions League money next season.
Who knows the way it's gone? Who's digging me out for Christmas? When's the Christmas alarm coming, Daniel?
We might come to that.
I'm sure.
Before I let you go, Burnsy, very quickly, Bob Duff wants to know why Balalovic, Kyrgyzstanson, apologies for not doing that, and Frame don't get game time. He says 3 players that collectively cost $1.5 million. And I would just tack on at the end of that, if this form doesn't, upturn significantly, how much longer has Jimmy Thelin got?
Right, let me tackle the first part.
Sorry.
The 3 players there, Frame, Kjartsen and Balalovic.
He just showing you up there with pronouncing them. That's what
they were.
He didn't need to repeat that, Swanee, did he? He could have just said the 3 players.
Yeah, the 3 lads.
Stitched up.
the 3 lads. Daniel, well obviously Aberdeen spent a fair bit of money on those 3 players, and we've asked Jimmy the question on these 3 players umpteen times, and it's always the same answer. We've signed players for the now to hit the ground running, and we've also signed players for the longer term. You've used these 3 players as the longer term, so whether that's 6 months, whether that's a couple of seasons down the line, whether the manager will see the benefits of these, who knows. But that's the argument of these 3, that they're not quite ready to play in his first team every week, but they've got great potential, and that's why they've signed them. And Aberdeen feel they can develop them into first team regulars, and then in the model what they've used previously with Bojan Miovski and Lewis Ferguson, etc., they can eventually move them on for bigger fees. The second part, your second question there, how long can this go on with regards to the manager? I genuinely thought that the manager's position, I thought he could have well gone by now at the start of the season when they hadn't won any games and they were struggling to score a goal. It really was dire. I accept that back in May they won the Scottish Cup final, so he's got a lot of credit in the bank. But it just looked like everything he was trying, it just wasn't working. And I thought at that point, surely it's only a matter of time. But anytime you speak to anyone at Aberdeen or the Aberdeen hierarchy, they are 100% behind their manager. There's never been any thoughts of Jimmy moving on. So as it stands, unless the form falls off a cliff again domestically, I think he'll be there till the end of the season.